Oh, I just want to know if it actually replenishes the colony of E. coli. Ultimately.
It doesn't really. It could help. It depends on what poisons are dumping into the colon. Those are the ones that destroy the E. coli. You know, if you're taking medication, if you've had a vaccine, of course your intestinal environment, your E. coli is going to be destroyed for quite a while. Why do you think a lot of children go into depression for a year after a vaccine, after a round of vaccine? You know, they get more irritable. Look at the kids nowadays in their teens. You know, they're getting, like in the New Jersey, 128 vaccines by their 15 and a half. You know, and California, was it 98, 102 now? By the time you're 15 and a half, if you don't sign that waiver on the back, you know? And you wonder why these kids are depressed and anxiety, and they're never satisfied. They don't want you satisfied. They want you consuming. Food doesn't have any nutrition in it when it's processed. You're always going to be hungry and eating. Unless you're anorexic, then you can't, because you're so nauseous from all the poisons, you can't eat. But most people are overeating constantly. I know people who eat tons of food and can't gain an ounce of weight every day. And Jeff Slay was that way. As soon as he was on the diet, 5 months, you know, you look at him, you know, the pictures on the website, wewantolive.com. And you can see the difference between somebody who's fed good raw nutrition and then processed nutrition. Whole different thing entirely. So the E. coli is very important. Now, my E. coli was destroyed from chemo and radiation therapies. I was depressed as a child from all the medication. So it was just continuous. I was suicidal from the time I was 6 or 8 years old that I can remember. So until I started eating enough meat, when I started eating kefir and yogurts, raw kefir and yogurts, that started alleviating my severe depression and suicidal tendencies. Of course, after chemotherapy, I was even homicidal. I wanted to, you know, track down Reagan and kill him, and you know, any excuse to kill somebody. That's the kind of angst that I had inside. And then after the poison mushroom, it was Reagan and Bush. So, you know, it was all this high anxiety from having my E. coli destroyed. So you can replenish the brain and nervous system by eating high meat. I have one fellow who was chemically sensitive, who hated people. He was so antisocial, he was homicidal. He just always thought about killing people, taking machine guns, just knocking people down. And he was on medication. And he became a landscape artist, so he didn't have to deal with people. And he was on and off the diet after he heard about the diet. He was on and off the diet for a year and a half. Of course, when you're having those psychological problems and you're eating good food and it's not feeding your brain and nervous system, not going to help your brain and nervous system. So he's on and off the diet. So I finally convinced him to eat the high meat. Changed his life. He now eats 1 to 2 pounds of high meat a day. He won't eat any fresh meat. He's a bear of a guy. He is now the funniest, congenial person that I've ever met. And this is a person who hated people. He had, the last time I went there to do a workshop and seminar, he had 10 girlfriends. How do you get one girlfriend into a situation where you know she's a girlfriend, both of them are girlfriends in the same room? He had 3 of them, all supporting, because he is so funny and so charming and such a great guy. And that's what he does. He eats only high meat because that's what he needs. Now, maybe in another 10 or 15 years, his colon will cleanse to the point where he can grow and breed and support the E. coli in his intestines, but that isn't the way it is right now. Some people only need ping pong ball size amount the whole week, and that takes care of it. Other people need to eat a lot. You know, so,
And you mentioned raw kefir and yogurt, or in yogurt?
no, raw kefir and raw, those are pre-digested
Oh, okay.
proteins. So in the human body, you know, at least those are broken down way in advance of going into your system. So your bacteria in your intestines can break that down and feed on that bacteria. And then when it gets to the colon, the E. coli can do it easily and take care of you, even if you don't have good colonies of it. It's already so reduced that when they get a hold of it, it can produce it pretty easily. But it's still, the meat has protein concentrations like tryptophan that are not high in milk, they're high in meats. And tryptophan is good for relaxing, for sleeping, for things like that. So that is still not quite the value that high meat can give you. But it can still take care of a lot of the problems psychologically.
And you're saying it's almost instantaneous? The
Within 10 to 20 minutes, I've only had one person that didn't react within 10 to 20 minutes. He wasn't that depressed anyway, so.
And that's how you have to experiment individually, like on how much you need.
Right, and how
you don't
much
need.
is proper for your system.
Right.
Now, if I were to do a consult with you and I can see your colon, I can tell you the likelihood of how much you would need and how long it would take your intestines to be clean enough to foster and nurture the E. coli on your own.
That was actually another part of my question. When you do your individual consultations, do you conduct different tests, like blood work, or?
No, I do
you said-
hematology,
Okay.
and then I check the glandular activity and the blood and everything on the hand. Similar to the Chinese method, but I had to develop my own because I didn't agree. Chinese method was built on the Ayurvedic system, which is prejudiced toward yin and yang, hot and cold. It's too narrow of an arena to be able to distinguish what I need to distinguish.
Because
So,
you mentioned looking at the colon, how would you do that?
it's in the iris.
Oh, it's,
Yeah, it's in the
okay,
iris.
all through the iris, huh?
Yeah,